Hey guys, welcome to Star Wars in Real Life, where we fill our lives with Star Wars games, events, theme lands, toys, and shows like Star Wars Resistance, because real life kind of sucks, and Star Wars doesn't. And if you're watching this video, there's a very good chance the series finale of Star Wars Resistance has just aired, so please keep that in mind, because this video, it's pretty much a complete spoiler for that episode. So if you don't want to be spoiled, please click away, do not watch this video yet, watch Resistance first. But afterwards, definitely come back, because at the end I also talk about my thoughts and feelings on this show now that it's ended. Alright, let's get on with the breakdown. The episode opens up on the lead First Order Star Destroyer with Tam and Rockland. Tam is relieved that she can finally get a moment to relax and take a breather, but she's immediately distracted by something going on outside. Her and Rockland watch out of a window as the First Order destroys the small pocket of Resistance natives living on Eos Prime. We last saw the local Eosian species 2 episodes ago when they helped the Colossus escape the First Order after landing there earlier that day. Tam watches in terror as the First Order slaughters innocents, while Rockland watches in awe as those, quote, subversives got what they deserved. Tam goes back to her quarters and a mouse droid shows up to upgrade something. She gets an idea to use the mouse droid to help her escape. We see her open the droid up and reprogram it. Next, we cut to Agent Tyranny and Commander Pyre as they make a call to General Hux to inform him of their progress, saying that the Resistance has been wiped out from the Eos system. Hux walks away as Kylo Ren steps into the hologram, asking for the whereabouts of the Colossus. Tyranny admits that she doesn't know where it is, but she does have a plan for finding it. Kylo Ren doesn't seem satisfied, and he reminds them that failure is not acceptable, and he uses the Force to make Tyranny and Pyre take out their blasters and point them at each other. Kylo Ren releases them and leaves. Pyre suggests that they double their efforts. Good idea. Meanwhile, Tam breaks into Agent Tyranny's office to take back her comlink and uses it to reach out to the Colossus, using a secret mechanics code that only Niku would be able to interpret, which he does, and tells them to meet her on Castilon. Kaz thinks Tam wants to escape the First Order, but Yeager warns them that this might all be a trap. Kaz agrees and suggests that he go to Castilon alone, while the Colossus stays behind. They inform Captain Doza of the plan, and Yeager goes along with Kaz. We pick up with Tam in one of the hangar bays as she prepares a TIE fighter to leave for Castilon. Rockland and Agent Tyranny find her and ask what she's doing. Tam responds, saying that she's getting ready for the training session she's leading. Agent Tyranny lets her be, but suspects that she might be up to something. Tam leads a squadron of TIE fighters to Castilon for their training session. Agent Tyranny and Pyre, though, find out where she's going, and Tyranny's suspicions of Tam are confirmed as she immediately goes back to her office and finds Tam's comlink is missing from her drawer. Pyre orders the ship to Castilon. Kaz and Yeager arrive on Castilon. CB-23 is with them, and Kaz remarks how lonely it feels there without the Colossus. As Kaz and Yeager wait for Tam, they reminisce about the peaceful times they used to have on this planet. Tam arrives with 2 other TIEs with her. Sitting behind her is Rockland, who immediately recognizes Kaz and Yeager waiting on the surface of the planet and orders the rest of the squadron to open fire. Tam knocks Rockland unconscious and has to shoot down the other TIEs before they kill Kaz and Yeager. When she succeeds, she goes down to Kaz and gives him a hug. They grab Rockland, who's still unconscious, and bring him onto the shuttle as they prepare the ship to go home. But just as they do, the First Order arrives and starts firing down on them. CB pilots the ship and outmaneuvers the turbo lasers long enough for Kaz to send a half-finished transmission to the Colossus. Niku picks it up, but was only able to hear him say that they got Tam before the line goes dead. Kaz's shuttle gets caught in a tractor beam and the First Order jams their comms. Rockland wakes up in the back of the shuttle, wondering where he is. He looks around for clues in the shuttle's flight logs and finds out where the Colossus is hiding. Tam gets an idea to rig their shuttle to self-destruct once arriving on the First Order landing platform. This gives them enough of a diversion for Kaz and Yeager to make a run for it. Tam, however, is still taken captive, along with Rockland, who the First Order now suspects was in cahoots with Tam from the beginning. Rockland tries defending himself as a victim of her plan and gives up the location of the Colossus as a way of proving that he's still on their side. Meanwhile, on the Colossus, Doza, Tora, and Niku are in disagreement about what to do. Tora thinks that something bad might have happened and that they should go help Kaz. Doza is inclined to agree safety, but cannot ignore the high level of risk involved. So he orders Niku to round up the citizens of the Colossus for a meeting to discuss this dilemma. Back on the First Order Star Destroyer, Tam and Rockland are being taken to a detention cell until Kaz and Yeager manage to rescue them. Tam knocks Rockland unconscious again, and the three of them make a run for it. CB hacks a terminal to help them get onto a turbo lift, and while doing so, finds out that the ship is currently in hyperspace. Tam suspects that the First Order is on its way to the Colossus and comes up with a plan for warning them. Her plan is to go to engineering and sending out a subspace signal to the Colossus, as that's the only place they can do so without that signal getting jammed. The group meeting on the Colossus doesn't go that well, with pretty much everyone agreeing that trying to save Kaz, Yeager, and Tam is far too dangerous and not worth the risk. Just as all hope is lost, they receive an incoming hologram transmission from Kaz that Niku projects in front of everyone. Kaz informs them all that the plan went wrong and that the First Order is currently on its way to destroy the Colossus. Tam apologizes to everyone for her mistake and for putting them all in danger, and Kaz finishes up by saying that they all need to run and get as far away from there as possible before it's too late. Kaz, Yeager, and Tam get spotted by First Order guards and have to end the transmission. So this was a really powerful message to everyone on board the Colossus, not because it just confirmed their worst fears, but because it made them realize that Kaz and Tam, they were selflessly putting the safety of the Colossus ahead of their own. And that was a real turning point for the members of the Colossus, and convinced everyone that it was time to stop running and time to start standing up against the First Order and to save their friends. As the Colossus makes preparations for the oncoming battle, Kaz and crew are finally captured and taken to the bridge. They watch in terror as they come out of hyperspace and see that the Colossus is still there. The Colossus sends out their aces to attack the First Order's thrusters. Torra is a complete badass and pulls off an insane move that reminds me of the one Poe does at the beginning of The Last Jedi. You know, this one? The rest of the aces, however, are worried that their attacks will have no effect as long as the First Order's shields are still up, and they're right. Luckily, this whole time, CB has been making her way to a secret terminal hidden away somewhere in the Star Destroyer and manages to actually shut down its shields. First Order officers relay this information to the bridge, and Kaz, Tam, and Yeager see this as their call to action, their cue. So they coordinate an attack and they manage to overpower their guards before shooting all the controls on that bridge. So now the Star Destroyer is basically dead in space. Kaz and team escape the bridge and make their way to a hangar bay where they run into more stormtroopers, including Commander Pyre. Yeager manages to take out all of Pyre's support, but Pyre fires back, causing an explosion that temporarily knocks them all out. Kaz comes to, but is trapped under some heavy crates while he watches helplessly as Pyre walks towards him with a stormtrooper laser axe. As Pyre makes a swing for Kaz's head, CB fires a cable at the last possible second that catches Pyre's axe, saving Kaz's life and buying him enough time to grab his own weapon, pick himself up, and knock the commander unconscious. They finally escape by stealing a First Order transport from the hangar. Meanwhile, a boarding party arrives on the Colossus and its citizens began the retreat, but doing so allowed them to take the incoming stormtroopers by surprise in the Colossus's hallways, where the stormtroopers are basically gunned down like fish in a barrel. This kind of reminded me of the Battle of Endor, when the Ewoks stood up against the Empire and fought back using whatever weapons or means they had available to them. Bowls of Gruul intercepted 3 of them using sheer strength, but the stormtrooper kill of the week comes from the infamously underrated sole janitor of the Colossus, O'Peepit, who pushed his floor sweeper in the way of 2 more stormtroopers, tripping them both, lining them up for Aunt Z and her droid to take them out with a lot of firepower. Agent Tyranny calls for First Order reinforcements, but is refused when Kylo Ren reminds her the First Order does not tolerate the weak. Classic First Order principles. Outside, the aces make one more pass at the destroyer's engines, which finally initiated a chain reaction and destroyed the entire ship from the inside. Tyranny, Pyre, Rockland, they're all gone. The citizens of the Colossus watch and celebrate their victory over the First Order. Kaz, Tam, and Yeager finally made it back on the Colossus, and Tam was finally home. She and Niku shared a touching moment as they reunited. Tam apologized to Niku for leaving, and Niku told her, hey, everyone makes mistakes and it's okay. They all go to Aunt Z's to celebrate and share one last touching moment before the show ends. Okay, so what did I think? Overall, I really liked this episode. It was definitely the best of the season, if not the series in my opinion, as it concluded another epic Star Wars story of standing up to tyranny, confronting fear, and finding one's place in the galaxy. Overall, I liked the show, but if I had to rank it against the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars Resistance would be at the bottom of that list. Not that it's bad, but to me, it doesn't deliver as much as the others. I would have enjoyed this show much more if it had higher stakes, more connections to the Force, and just a more significant connection to the overall story of Star Wars. When the show began, I was excited to see Poe and General Organa, and wondered how this show's characters would tie into the greater fight against the First Order. But it turned out to be its own, self-contained story. None of the events that happened in this show really had any impact on the stories told by the sequel trilogy. And to me, what makes Star Wars the greatest story ever told is its ability to connect all of its sub-stories together in a way that creates synergy. So for example, I enjoyed Revenge of the Sith when it came out, but then the Clone Wars animated series came out, and all of that extra story, that extra context to the war, it introduced us to the background characters and their stories and how they directly impacted the war. The emotional connections made with those characters then made the movie Revenge of the Sith that much more meaningful. So when Order 66 happened, I wasn't just watching a Conehead, a blue girl, and a monster face get killed. I was watching Ki-Adi-Mundi, Aayla Secura, and Plo Koon get betrayed and murdered by their most trusted friends. That show made the movie better, but the movie also made the show better because even though we already knew how it all ended, knowing that it ends in tragedy makes the whole show tragic and that much more emotional. And that's why I'm still excited to watch the conclusion of that show when it airs next month on Disney+, especially now with that new trailer that just came out a few days ago, which if you haven't seen it yet, definitely click right up here where you can watch the entire trailer and watch my reactions to it. Yeah, you'll probably make fun of me for being so excited and silly about a cartoon, but that's what storytelling synergy does. That same thing happened when Rogue One came out while Star Wars Rebels was running. Seeing Chopper on Yavin 4, hearing Pow say Karabast, and watching the Ghost participate in the Battle of Scarif, it makes that movie so much better since it involved characters we were already invested in. And that movie made the show better because now we know that these rebels would have such an important role in the future in providing support and helping Rogue One steal the plans to the Death Star, which would help Luke Skywalker eventually destroy it. And now every time I watch A New Hope, it makes me think about Rogue One, about the team that stole those plans. It makes me think about Star Wars Rebels who helped form the rebellion, who would help Rogue One, who would help Luke Skywalker save the day in the end. That's storytelling synergy. Each piece makes every other piece better. That's why we rewatch all the movies and shows, because every time we do, we experience it a little differently. And at this point, there's just so much interconnected story in Star Wars that's why the fans are so passionate about what is and isn't canon. Because if you didn't like Rogue One, then it might have negatively affected how you enjoyed Rebels. If you're traumatized by how Luke was portrayed in The Last Jedi, then you might think that his whole character arc in the original trilogy is just it's pointless now. That's storytelling synergy. And that's my biggest problem with Star Wars Resistance. It didn't feel connected to anything meaningful. It felt very self-contained. As far as we know, the characters in the show had no part in the larger Resistance. They only just managed to save themselves. This show turned out to be a show about Team Colossus rather than Team Resistance. So why should we care? Now, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful show with a beautiful story, but it's missing that synergy with the rest of Star Wars. But we never saw Kaz or Doza or Yeager or Tam play a role in building the Greater Resistance like we saw Hera play a role in forming the Rebellion. At least not as meaningful to me. It doesn't make me want to rewatch Resistance. And to be honest, I haven't. This is the only show of the 3 animated series that I haven't rewatched a single episode of. I just don't really feel a need to. I'm not invested enough. So that's my main problem with this show. It's not bad. I love the voice acting and the artistic style of it. It's just missing something. That and it was a little too much of a baby cartoon for me. The humor was just very silly and mainly focused on Catastrophe's clumsiness. The stakes weren't high. All of the good guys made it out alive, so I just don't really care. But I'm also not the target audience. The show isn't for me. I'm along for the ride. I'm hitchhiking. Who am I to complain about the car that I'm in? You know what I mean? Also, I'm just a guy. I'm not a writer. I've never produced a show show or worked for Lucasfilm or Disney or anywhere in the film industry. I don't know anything. I certainly don't presume to know how the show should be. I'm just expressing how the show feels for me. And it's completely fine for anyone else to love this show, and I'm completely open to being wrong about my criticisms. So if you feel I'm being too harsh on this show, or that I'm missing some important point, or that you disagree with me on something, I hope you tell me down in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on this show. So until then, you will subscribe to my YouTube channel. We will keep on living Star Wars, and I will see you in the next video.